Here we go. Okay, we're recording. Hello, my spiritual badasses. Today I have two very super cool guests, Charlie Ziese and Lisa Richards, who have set up Stargate pyramids not so long ago, and they both have a remarkable story. You may have caught Charlie on Mark Atwood's show just not so long ago and on Galactic Greg. And if not, I'm super excited to introduce both of them on my channel today. We are living in some very interesting times where hidden knowledge is coming to the surface. The ancient wisdom of sacred geometry is talked about more than ever before, and the power of pyramids date back to the Vedas. But just how much do we understand about all of this? How beneficial is this knowledge to our lives right now? And how can it help us with healing energetically? And what does this all mean? Well, for someone curious like myself that is opening my eyes to a new world of wisdom and a willingness to heal, many of you who know my story, I'm very committed in all ways to heal physically and energetically. And that is why I have these two wonderful guests on my show today. Hello, Charlie and Lisa, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for having us today. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience and to bring some wisdom, we hope, that we've been relearning from our ancient traditions to contemporary life and society. So we appreciate it. So, you know,
thank you.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Charlie. So before we start, I just wanted to let the audience know that also Lisa's going to be speaking a little bit about live blood analysis. So that was a nice surprise today because, you know, there's so much. I don't think you've spoken about that on any of the other shows, have you?
No, we didn't.
So,
we hadn't done it. We hadn't gotten it done yet.
Yeah, so this is super cool. We've got some videos and some slides. So Charlie, I'm going to let you take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having us on today. Yeah, we continue to do a lot of research through the foundation that Lisa and I set up, the Pyramid Science Foundation. We set that up last year, in large part, not only to replicate all of the research that was done in Russia over the last 30 years, but also to expand upon that into other areas that we find of interest. And we'll talk about a few of those areas today. So what I'm going to do, because a lot of this information is visual for your audience, I'm going to be pulling up some slides and working largely off of slides today. I'd
just like to say both Lisa and Charlie are in their pyramids, and I would have been myself. I've just received my one today, so thank you for that. And I received this,
the Caduceus coil. That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to use this for many purposes.
But yeah, it's not meant to hit people with. But I will show you what it
powers. Look, everybody. Yeah, Kenzo, be careful.
But there's an interesting story even to the Caduceus coil in sacred geometry, which I'll be showing here in a minute.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and open up my slideshow. Can everyone see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So this is, again, they're called the Russian pyramids, but we're going to find out today that this knowledge didn't start in Russia at all. In fact, it started back in the ancient Vedas and in India. And in fact, what we're going to find today is that all of this geometric knowledge, the concept that we know of as the Fibonacci series, which is the basis upon which this pyramid geometry is derived, all comes from India. So we hear about fake news, I'm sure in the United States, I'm sure you do in the UK as well. And this is fake history. So we're going to try to expose this and let people see a little bit of the truth. But this is one of many pyramids that were built by Dr. Alexander Golod and his team in Russia over the last 30 years. This research was largely funded by the Russian government. And that's something I know that our government in the U.S. has not been prone to do in the past, which is to find inexpensive ways to improve public health. But I wanted to show you as well just what our pyramids, these are personal meditation pyramids that we sell at stargatepyramids.com. And these match the geometry, you know, of the pyramids that were built in Russia. And as we'll see, also the temples from
The temples, yeah.
ancient times in India, and you know, both the Hindu and the Buddhist temples from that area. So now to get right into what you were asking about, Alpa, we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to let the first concept to know is that specific geometries, which we'll talk about, of pyramids will create what a Russian torsion physicist named Anatoly Akimov calls a passive torsion generator. Means, yeah, you generate energy just by virtue of the geometry of a device. There are many other people today. Dr. Ibrahim Karim from Egypt has developed a whole technology around the sound, form, creating energy fields, and his work is called biogeometry. There are a number of other people. The Russians call this form effects, but suffice it to say that we all interact and impact the energy fields of others, and specific geometries are particularly good at that process. So, you know, what we have here are on the top right-hand corner, this is what Lisa does. She makes a lot of enhancements for the pyramid, and those include capstones and other objects that she's going to be talking about here in a minute. But those help to enhance the natural energy fields that come from the pyramid geometry. And on the bottom is a product that both of us sell, which are called Caduceus coils.
These things,
Now, the interesting geometry to this, if you look at the Caduceus coil, and then you look at the symbol of healthcare around the world, which is the Caduceus, which has this very same geometry in its
the Kundalini as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So this has been hiding in plain sight, and it's just another example of many that we'll see today, that this geometry is everywhere in our life. But I want to stop now and just let Lisa talk a little bit about some of these enhancement products before we
I just have a quick question before you start, Lisa. So that's a really good point to mention about a lot of the symbols having duality, dual meanings today. And with everything that's being revealed, especially in the last 1 year, with like symbology, with the pyramids, with the snakes, with the serpents, with this particular shape, there is a lot of negative connotations to the symbols as well, especially pyramids. What do you have to sort of like, can you shed a bit more light about that, Charlie?
Well, yeah, I mean, what I would say as a classic example, my significant other is she's a holistic dentist and a naturopath. So she's on this general path with me, obviously, but we talked about the pentagram as an example just several months ago, and she brought it up and she said, well, that's a symbol of evil or negativity. And that I said, well, that's actually not true, because the pentagram is one of those, I don't have it in the slides today, but it's one of the classic diagrams which shows this phi relationship, this phi scaling that we're going to be talking about today. And so what's actually happened in this case, and I've got several more examples, is that information, geometry, that is of a sacred and significant positive nature has been distorted and vilified to create the impression that this is all evil. And when in fact it's just natural, it's nature's creative process showing up in our physical plane. So
and it's the dominant shape in a lot of the temples in India. I went to the Sadhguru temple in Coimbatore not so long ago, and the pyramid and the serpent is a very common symbol there in the whole temple, and there's a lot of spiritual meaning to this. So it's all been inverted, and we must be careful not to look, because it's duality, isn't it? But each shape has a negative and a positive. If we look at the this conspiratorial realm where pyramids are associated with the Illuminati, there's almost like a negative taste left in people's mouths about the subject of symbology and shapes and things like that. So pyramids were used and are used in all temples in India. It's just there in plain sight to see and to actually encompass that energy that we get from the temples. And I've been to many where you can actually just feel the energy. It's unexplainable, and I never knew exactly what it meant. So that's why I've been really excited today to speak a bit more. So Lisa, over to you.
Yeah, so my view is if they're trying to deter us from looking into a subject, there's usually something behind it.
Absolutely.
You know, there's definitely a healing power to these pyramids, and they've been using this technology for many years. You know, a lot of the wars that were started were actually to rob the other countries of their sacred knowledge. You know, so I'm glad we came upon the Russian pyramid knowledge. You know, Charlie and I just came upon this a few years ago. I was into pyramid power with Patrick Flanagan and pyramid energy that way with the Giza pyramid. And what I discovered with the Russian is that the geometry is just way more powerful. I like to tell people the steeper the angle, the more power the pyramid has. You know, so this is one of the custom capstones that I make.
Wow.
The Giza pyramid, you know, it's the shorter, fatter base. That's like the dial-up connection. Okay, this is going to be the high-speed internet. If you want to connect to your higher self, you want to connect to source. You know, you want to heal. That's how you heal. Our body knows how to heal. It was designed to heal. And we kind of got lost from that connection. So when we utilize the meditation pyramid, the Russian pyramid specifically, we're connecting to our higher self, which reminds us, hey, we know how to do this. Listen up, let's go. And you start healing, okay? Manifestations are crazy with this. You really have to mind your thoughts. So like you were talking earlier, you know, things can be used for good or evil. And that's how it's used. If you have negative thoughts and you're sitting inside of this, you're going to have a bad day. It's just going to draw more negativity to you. So be very mindful when you utilize this technology, because it is very powerful. But this is one of the custom capstones that I make.
So that goes right at the top, right?
Right, yeah. Let me show you real quick on mine. So I actually have an apex amplifier as well. So it's a little platform that goes about a foot below.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. It goes about a foot below the apex of the capstone.
Yeah.
And you can put things on it like crystals, water, charge your water, seeds, plants, whatever you want to charge with pyramid energy. What we discovered is that about a foot below the apex is where the most energy resides inside the pyramid. So it's an amazing, this apex amplifier is amazing to have to charge things. If you don't have time to meditate, you have a glass of water up there, just drink that water. You're going to get that energy the same. Yeah. So it's amazing. But let me show you real quick on mine. So it's really simple there. So you have the capstone on the top. And then I have I have the platform up there and a jar of water charging on top of it.
That will make it so much easier to assemble, because
it
does. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, you need two people. You need two people to assemble it.
I know, poor Kenzo got hit today when I was trying, and it just kept going like this. And I thought, oh no, I've got the show in a few minutes. I really wanted to sit and just become Superwoman before I started. I only literally just got it, and I started to assemble it. So I've got a ladder over there. I'm trying to lean it, but that would actually help put it together.
Yes,
right. Sure,
it does. It stabilizes
Sorry,
it.
Kenzo.
So in the base of the capstone, there's 4 holes.
Right.
And the pipes go right inside the holes. Yep. And you straighten it out a little bit, and it works
and that would just
awesome.
keep it together, as well as those kind of the little plastic things that come with it. Okay.
But it also enhances the energy of it. Charlie, I think you did a study with the Lecker antenna. Didn't you do a reading with the Lecker antenna and increase the pyramid power by like 5 times?
Yeah.
So it really expanded.
And is there any kind of significance to the colors or how you've made them with the material?
Yeah, so this is another capstone. Let me shine the light on it a little. My light's all flooding out today. But this is called the intuitive design capstone. So what I also offer a service, because I'm an intuitive, where people can send me an image of themselves, or I can just tune into their energy without it, but I prefer to have an image. And I design a capstone according to their depending on which crystals, which color frequencies to use. And then I send them a detailed file that describes each element that it was created with and how it's going to assist them with their transformation. Yeah, so a lot of people, you know, depending on how much work you do with the pyramid, that capstone that's customized for you, you may need another one after a couple months because you're evolving, you know, you're constantly transforming. So you can always continue to use the old one. I always tell people, put it underneath your chair while you're meditating. The more pyramid energy in a line, you know, it's going to amplify it even more. So I actually have a capstone on the peak of my pyramid. And then I have my intuitive design one that was designed for myself right on the platform when the water's not up there. So when I'm meditating, I have a pyramid under my chair, I have a capstone on the peak, and then one on the apex amplifier. So I have 3 lined up in a row, and it's super powerful that way.
So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but so you said you see a visual of somebody, but you've seen me. Just what would you picture with someone like me? Is it would you use colors? Is it certain type of material that you use? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah, so for you, I believe Unakite is going to be more of a heart chakra stone for you, heart crystal stone, but also you need more grounding. So stones like shungite, I use shungite powder a lot in mine, or magnetite powder, but I would use shungite for you. The shungite, yeah. Yeah, so colors like gold, you know, to connect to the crown chakra a little bit more, kind of to balance you out, the black and white, and then you know, white is more of it's kind of associated with the gold as well, more of the spiritual realm. And then black would be the shungite for grounding, and like a red for the grounding as well, or a magenta, more of like a pinkish red. So that would be more associated with the heart chakra as well.
That's so powerful, isn't it? It's so powerful when you can just look at someone and intuitively be able to ascertain, like, right, what energy and what colors are going to actually align with them.
Yeah, and what I tell people, you know, it's usually a design that you wouldn't have chosen yourself. When you're constantly gravitating towards things that you like, you're going to remain at the same vibration, and we're always trying to evolve. So you want to step outside of the box. So it's nice to have an intuitive or somebody design something 100%. For you. Yeah, because they're going to touch on different elements that you wouldn't even have thought of for yourself.
Well, I was saying to Charlie earlier on today, I said, Charlie, look, I don't want to know anything about what we're going to speak today because I love the spontaneity on my shows. I never prep for them. So I wasn't expecting this today. And I'm just like, I want 5.
Well, yes.
Lisa, you might tell the audience about the customer you have in Michigan. How many is she ordered?
Yes, I think she's ordered at least 15 from me. She's addicted. Oh, wow. She is my best customer. Yep. Shout out to Jill. I'm sure she's going to be watching this. She watches your show all the time too.
Oh, bless. I think a lot of people from the US have gravitated towards my shows and the things that I speak about. I haven't done actually a show for a while, so this is the first one. I've got a few to put up before, but I took some time out. So, you know, I felt completely recalibrated to come on today and excited. So yeah, I'll have 20, please.
Yes. Well, people are searching for truth. I hope you
get a volume discount for that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, people are searching for.
I'm Indian.
So anyway, we'll be telling everyone how to order products later, but I don't want to cut you off, but I think we got a lot of material.
Yeah, no, we do. And it's okay. You know, I think, you know, my viewers are really cool. They, you know, they really do like get involved, and I get some amazing comments. So, you know, just an amazing bunch. But yeah, take it away, Charlie.
Let me tell you about let me tell them about the Bionized sand real quick,
Oh, sure.
Charlie.
Yes. Okay.
So another product that I make, Charlie and I both use a high quartz content sand that we put inside of the poles, okay? Charlie offers the regular quartz sand, which really turns it into a crystal pyramid. But what I discovered was a process called bionization, and it was discovered by Wilhelm Reich in the 1940s. He's the same man who discovered orgone energy. And it's a process of freezing and boiling 3 different times. So you freeze and boil, freeze and boil, freeze and boil this quartz sand. I actually do it with my crystals now as well that I use in my pyramids, but it actually enhances the life force energy of the crystal, and it infuses it into it, so it never dissipates. It's always highly charged. So if you get, my capstone, for instance, it always has the bionized quartz sand in it, and it always has a bionized crystal in it. You never have to charge that. You can actually use that to charge your other crystals with, because it always has that high quartz content. And then we also offer services to put the bionized quartz sand inside the poles of your meditation pyramid as well.
Yeah, but I think that should be customary anyway to have one of those, because when I was trying to assemble it, just those round insert the round things at the bottom of the capstones, it just helps to sort of assemble it properly and in place. And not only energetically is it good, just from a place of putting the whole thing together.
Oh, sure.
It makes it much easier. So no, it's really good, really good.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Just a brief discussion about the coils. I learned about coils when we started working with sound healing last year. There's a lot of science from a number of researchers, Konstantin Weil, Fritz Albert Popp, Sir Roger Penrose from the UK, Stuart Hameroff from the US. They all show that DNA communicates via scalar waves. And the short verse to the Caduceus coil is that what this actually does, you hook this up instead of listening to a sound frequency, for example, on your cell phone, you actually take a cord and you plug it in on one end of your cell phone, and then you hook it up to the end of this Caduceus coil. You don't hear anything with your ears, but it creates those frequencies in scalar waves. Subconsciously, apparently your subconscious brain, when it listens or hears things through the eyes and ears, if there's a subconscious block to healing, for example, if you may consciously want to heal whatever issue you may have, but if subconsciously you're saying something like, well, gee, if I get well, then I can't play victim anymore, or this will happen, or I'll lose my boyfriend, or whatever, then you'll have a block that may keep you from healing, and playing those frequencies through the coil gets around that subconscious block. So that's the basic theory behind.
How would you use that? Because I have someone that I'm speaking to quite regularly, and she's just like, Alpa, I want to do everything I can to heal. This is healing from trauma, right?
Well, I just had a person from Long Island actually call me on Saturday. He got one of these. He's a healer, and he used this in a healing session with a customer client who, I believe, as I remember, that he thinks this was some sort of a past life blockage, and at the end of the session, the problem was completely resolved.
And how would they use it? Like in which way? Just holding it?
Well, that's a very good question. You can put it underneath your chair, or you can also hold it. I am now experimenting. I actually have mine at not in this pyramid, but in the one in my bedroom. I have the Caduceus coil hanging from the top of the pyramid. And once again, similar to what Lisa was saying, that seems to me to be the most beneficial place to locate it, because I can feel the energy. I'm not as energy perceptive as, say, Lisa, or probably you are, but
I think I'm going to go outside in public and hold this, and hopefully people won't wear masks. What do you think?
Well, if that'll work, I'll try it out over
There's
here.
hope. There's healing with that as well. I'm doing a public service, you know.
That's
Just
right. That's
all
right.
this. I mean,
Oh,
people might actually report me as being a psychopath, but you know.
we're going to get to some of that here in just a minute.
Yes,
In fact, why don't we talk about some of the upcoming research efforts that we're going to
let's do that.
be doing, because I think that's important. We have started, I decided to do this on the interview with Mark. It was really a spontaneous idea, but we are now in the process of putting together a survey. We are inviting people who are both healers and people who need some healing to join us in this effort. People who purchased the pyramids and or are healers are going to be using the pyramid in conjunction with healing modalities that range from sound healing to Reiki, distance healing, you name it. And we're going to be seeing how the pyramid enhances the results that people receive. And I'm working on that. Lisa's working on it. We're going to get that survey out hopefully in the next week or so. And it'll be open to anybody, who has purchased a pyramid in the past. We'll talk later in the session about people who may have some specific issues that they'd like to talk to us about. We're willing to offer people who are willing to participate in the survey.
Yeah. Well, what I suggest as well, sorry to interject, but after we've done this show, and I know that this will be received really, really well, we can actually do a live, which I think would be really helpful. So we can have live questions.
Yes, yes. So that would be fantastic. And then we're going to come back to this in a few minutes. Lisa's going to do some live blood analysis and show you what a change there is in her blood, because she's using herself as the initial guinea pig on this. And then actually tomorrow, Lisa and I and some others are going to be doing some things that I think are going to be kind of profound. We came up with the idea last week. We didn't know how to measure the changes in consciousness. That I can tell you that I feel more peaceful, I feel more connected to my higher self and so forth. But we were trying to figure out a way to demonstrate that. And we've got a dowser who we've worked with, Bill McKenzie, who came up with a brilliant idea last week. And he said, well, why don't we use David Hawkins' map of consciousness? For those familiar with David Hawkins' work, about 25 years ago, he wrote Power versus Force,
Yes.
The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior. And he came up with a 0 to 1,000 scale. And so we're going to be doing research on that very topic to see how the pyramid impacts it. Bill says that he can actually go back in time and dowse, and I'll use myself as the guinea pig, because I know 10 years ago, if this doesn't prove that I was a wreck 10 years ago compared to what I am now, well, I'll be surprised. But we're going to go back in time and see where my consciousness has gone over the last 10-year period.
Yeah,
and I think we're going to have some very fascinating results. We're also going to be testing some coils, some additional kinds of coils that are made. They're modeled after a lot of the stuff that Slim Sperling, who invented tensor rings, created about 30 years ago. So we've got a lot of interesting stuff going on that we'll be able to report on here in the near future. But what I wanted to do quickly, just to give your audience a quick idea of the power of these in the field of health. These are just bullet point summaries of some of the research that was done in Russia over the last 30 years on these pyramids. In the first case, they took mice who had been exposed. They gave them injections of Salmonella typhimurium, which is the typhoid fever bacteria, and the control group was just placed in a regular cage, but the experimental group was actually living inside of a pyramid when all this occurred. And they gave them the exact same dosage of the bacteria, and the survival rate of the mice that were inside the pyramid increased tenfold. So in the control group, only 6% of the mice survived the injection of the Salmonella typhimurium, but 60% survived inside the pyramid. They used an even stronger dose and got very similar results. 3% in the control group survived on the stronger dose, and 30% survived when they were living inside the pyramid. In another case study, they looked at the encephalomyocarditis or EMC virus, and they did some controlled studies, again, in pyramid water as opposed to regular water. They grew this. They found out that the breeding capacity of the EMC virus was cut by 300% when pyramid water was used in the medium as opposed to regular water. One of the really interesting studies shows that in mice, they found that the way all of this improvement in immune function occurs seems in large part to be due to the ability to regenerate the thymus gland in mice, and we can take that, I think, by extension to humans as well. The thymus gland is a very, very important gland in immune function for humans. It produces what are called T cells, and T cells are the ones that go out into the body and search for things that shouldn't be there, like bacteria and viruses. And if they are not around, the immune function, or if they're around in just very small numbers, the immune function in the body goes downhill in a hurry. And that's exactly what happens to people in my age group. I'm 68, and so in theory, I'm a senior citizen and should have a horrible or a compromised immune function. But I haven't had a sniffle in 6 years since I sat under or started making these pyramids and had that energy around me. So in fact, what they did, they cut open these mice, and they measured the size of these thymus glands, and they found that in the older mice that the thymus had regenerated and grown back to closer to normal size, resulting in a greater proliferation of these T cells. So that seems to be the way that this is working. A final one that we'll talk about, well, there's several more, eliminates mortality in premature birth babies. They had an index that they used for to measure the immune function of severely premature babies in Russia, and they took a group of 20 of these children, all of whom were expected to die based upon their severe premature nature and the results of this test, these tests that they did. And every single one of them survived after receiving water that had been stored under the pyramid, proving once again that this has a dramatic impact on immune function. So in another study, there was a town in Russia that was downwind from a chemical plant that had caused havoc on the environment in its immediate vicinity, so much so that they had literally vacated an area about 25 kilometers around from any human habitation. But there was a town about 40 kilometers downwind that wasn't inside the 25-kilometer radius that had been cleared out, but they had severe numbers of people dying from cancer and other airborne related carcinogens in the air as a result of the plant. Well, what they did was to build a pyramid about halfway between the plant and the town, and within 3 years' time, the number of deaths related to these airborne toxins went from 700 to less than 10. So wow. Just amazing results again. So you'll also see on the bottom right-hand corner here, in one of the experiments, they actually built a pyramid on top of a hospital in Russia, and they found that the rate of healing for the patients that were inside the hospital improved dramatically. Violent behavior decreases dramatically in mice and in humans as a result of exposure to the pyramid. They took salt, table salt that you'd eat, with your food, and they put that inside of a pyramid before distributing it to the prison population in Russia. They had about 6,000 prisoners in about 20 different prisons. So they had a very diverse sample size here. And every one of the wardens said it was like somebody had taken the prison population and swapped them out at night, because there was no violent behavior anymore after they started eating the table salt that had been placed under the pyramid. So just some fascinating results here.
Fascinating, yeah.
But now I want to turn it back over to Lisa, because she has been a pioneer. She's been working on this for months. So I wanted to get her on the show because these are really amazing videos. She's learned how to do this and she can take it away, but these are, you'll be amazed at how impactful just drinking water that was stored under the pyramid is for your blood.
Wow.
Yes, yes. And a couple other things that benefits from it too that you didn't mention that I really enjoy is the energy. My workshop is right underneath my bedroom, and most of the time I sleep because of the energy that's coming up. If I have a bunch of pyramids that I'm making in my workshop, the energy is just amazing. But you get more mental clarity, more focus. You know, I used to be an event coordinator for many years. I was very reactive to situations. You know, chop, everything needed to be done right away. I'm very much more laid back. I'm able to observe what's happening and think about it before I respond. So that was one of the benefits. But one of the cool benefits that they discovered in the Russian research was they built a huge pyramid. It was over 200 feet high, I believe. But at the corners of the pyramid, outside of the pyramid, they saw plants starting to grow that they didn't recognize. So they did an analysis of them, and they went extinct thousands of years ago. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing, the stuff that they're discovering with this. And these tests were done specifically by the Russian government. And what I've discovered, you know, I went to Italy a few years ago to learn about pulsed electrical magnetic therapy healing. They've been using this stuff for 20, 30 years to heal people of all kinds of things, including cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, you know, and when they come into our country, these devices are in our country, but the lady from the FDA specifically said, we don't care how they're listed in other countries. We'll list them however we want to. So these healing devices that are in our country are allowed to be known as a wellness device to enhance your chi energy. That's how you can advertise it. You can't say it's going to cure anything, of course. It's just crazy.
I'm really looking forward to experiencing this, and once I assemble it all correctly, because that's one of the things that I've struggled with over the last 5 years is my memory and focus. Like yourself, I was very, very organized, structured, quite, you know, controlling in the sense that I wanted things done and I wanted them done. And I could do 20 things at once, multitask. And over the last sort of, I'd say acutely 8 years, you know, that's just kind of disintegrated, and it's almost like losing that sort of sense of self over the years. And it's attributed to a lot of things, stress and, you know, all the EMFs that we are surrounded by, all the oxidative damage that we are exposed to, the chemicals, etc. So we're going to speak about the live blood cells, and it just, I just remembered about 9 years ago, sorry. I worked at a naturopath's, it was like a wellness spa for about a year, just to help a friend out. And one of the naturopaths wanted to introduce the live blood analysis. So I actually remember her putting my blood under a microscope, and she was just showing me how the blood cells were when I was in a period of stress compared to when I was a little bit calmer after doing some healing work. So it'll be interesting to revisit that today.
Yes, it's very powerful. And I keep saying, you know, in order to get to these left-brained people, we have to go through the right brain. Or I should say, in order to get to the right brain, we have to go to the left brain to get people there. It just makes more sense. So having the science to back this up is really amazing. And the foundation, the Pyramid Science Foundation, is going to prove so much and help so many people. People are tired of being sick. They want to be healthy. They're tired. They know that, you know, the allopathic medicine is just keeping them sick and treating the symptoms and not the underlying cause. And like you said, We're
Too much
being
reliance.
bombarded by every avenue. They're spraying stuff in the air. There's poison in our water, in our food. Our soils are depleted. And now we're swimming in a soup of electrical magnetic frequencies that is getting worse and worse every day.
Absolutely.
And it's interacting with our energetic body. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the main causes. We're going to see an increase in dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's from specifically the electrical magnetic frequencies, all kinds of things. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is why these type of shows are really important for me, because and to actually get this knowledge out, it's not like, I'd like to stress to all my viewers that, look, I read some of the comments sometimes, and the people that I have on my show are predominantly for healing. This is the journey that I've embarked on. And a lot of people, it's not just myself only, people are writing to me about their thyroid, about fibromyalgia, because that's something that the doctor said I have. I actually know it's more of it's what we kind of own. It's a dis-ease of the body, and energetically I want to completely let everything go, and I'm trying to sort of find my way in this healing journey. But this is so important. This knowledge is really important for us because we're not taught. There's an over reliance for allopathic medicine, and especially people in my community, like my family. A lot of people have had the vaccines done, and this ancient wisdom comes from India, and I would have thought that I would have been more well versed in this, but I knew nothing. Being born and raised here in the UK, sometimes I get a little bit embarrassed, not really knowing enough about Asana Dharma and the Vedas, and the absolute brilliance of our Vedic science and the sacred gematria, and how powerful this is in aiding our healing at every level. It's not encouraged every day, it's more on Western medicine, and it's the status quo. My son is a doctor, therefore let's align to that, and Western medicine, they know best. So right now, one of the fundamental difficulties that I find within my community is, what do you know? You're not a doctor. But I'm like, come on, guys, we are home to spirituality and this Vedic science, which is science in itself, right? And the healing powers that this has, come on, but I've not been able to articulate myself, with the knowledge, because I haven't known.
No.
And I put my hands up. That's why I find
Yes.
this fascinating.
You'll know a lot more by the end of the hour.
Fine, we can take your time.
And it's just amazing that so many people look to man to heal themselves. Yes. When, we were not created by man. We were created by God. So why not go to God and our higher self to connect and heal ourselves, But let me show you this. This live blood analysis is amazing. I've been doing it to myself. I've been my own guinea pig for the past couple of months. My daughter is actually registered holistic nutritionist, and
nice.
This is her camera, so I stole it from her microscope. Can you please share the screen?
Oh.
So this is my blood first thing in the morning after I woke up. I had a little bit of coffee, played on my phone for a little bit, drank some orange juice. And you can see the red cells are all stuck together like little caterpillars. They're not supposed to be like that. That usually is caused by electrical magnetic frequencies, from your blood being acidic. The red blood cells are supposed to be all separated and free flowing, because they can't fit through your arteries and veins when they're all stuck together like this. So that's why you end up getting tired. That's why you get disease. Okay. Now, this is the second video. Now, this one is after I drank 8 ounces of water that was sitting on my Apex amplifier. That's the platform that sits below the capstone, for 2 weeks. The water was sitting on there for 2 weeks. That's all I did. And this was a half an hour later. So I just drank that 8 ounces of pyramid water, and half an hour later, this is my blood. So all the cells are separated now,
look at that.
like they're supposed to be. And there's a lot more movement. There's a lot more movement. You can feel the energy from it, just drinking it. I mean, you feel more alive. You feel more alert, more focused, more mental clarity.
Wow.
Now, did you do anything else during that 30 minutes after you drank the water?
just walking around doing stuff like
Okay,
dishes
so
and
you
stuff
weren't
like that.
meditating. You weren't meditating
Nope.
or anything like that.
No, but this next one I am. So
Look at that. That is like 30 minutes after drinking the water
Yep.
underneath.
just 30 minutes. Yep.
Underneath the capstone.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I'll have 30 now.
Yeah. So you can see there is some cell separation. Let me go in here in a minute. Hold on, let me restart this one. It's messing up for some reason. Oh, as soon as I exit. Okay, there we go. Okay. See if this one's better. Okay.
It's amazing how our energy is just constantly changing throughout the day, and just what we eat, what we drink impact so instantly.
Yeah. So this is, like I said, after waking up in the morning, I wasn't feeling very good. My head hurt, my neck hurt, drank some coffee. So there is some cell separation, but there's not a lot of movement. As the video progresses here, you'll see there is some reloading still. That's when the blood cells stick together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so,
separate,
and let me go to the next one. So the second video here is, it's after 15 minutes using the Caduceus coil. That's all I did. I was inside the pyramid. I was using my Caduceus coil, and I was playing a 528 hertz frequency through it inside the Stargate pyramid. The coil was just sitting on the floor, and this was for just 15 minutes.
So while you're waiting for to load that up, can we have this by our, like when we sleep, like near our beds?
Yes.
You know.
I'll answer that while she's pulling that up. I have my Caduceus coil and my pyramid in the bedroom. I run solfeggio frequencies 24/7. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but you know, I had a lady email me yesterday. She just got her coil and pyramid, was having insomnia for years, started playing it the first night, and she said she slept through the night for the first time in 20 years, you know, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I said to Mark when I first met you, the first time we spoke, Charlie, I said, you know, you do have a very good energy, and I'm very intuitive myself, and I can pick that up. And people can, like, if you're intuitive yourself, you know, you can pick up if I'm going through a bit of anxiety or feeling a little bit not grounded, as you said, Lisa, earlier on. It's just always the anxiety that I sometimes have before I start a show, you know, just the little silly things. So it'd be interesting to see what my blood count would look like before and after.
Yes, it's a great tool to have. It really is.
Yeah.
So this is 15 minutes after using the Caduceus coil inside the Stargate pyramid. After 10 minutes, my headache went away.
Yeah. Wow.
So watch the movement. The movement of the blood is not moving at all right now. It's going to be moving here in a minute when the video goes.
But you can already see that it's separating a bit now.
Okay.
I wonder what those little white bits mean, like by the blood cells. The little white light.
Those are usually just little air bubbles. Okay. Let me start this over again because I want you to see the movement.
Yeah.
How much faster it is. It did cause some cell separation, but the movement was so much faster.
Okay, yeah.
My internet connection must be bad because it's
No, it's fine.
okay.
Get an idea. Great to just start your day with this, isn't it? In the morning in the meditation pyramid.
That's
Mhm. Yes. Okay, so you can see as it comes into focus, the cells are separated and just how fast it's flowing. My video keeps pausing, but there is the movement is so much faster. It's just
Yes.
amazing, and you can feel it.
Yes,
you can
look at
feel it
that,
for
and they're
yourself. You
separated.
definitely have to try it.
Yeah, look, they're all like completely
yep.
Yeah,
unfriending each other,
yeah.
going off independently on their own. Fascinating seeing the, you know, the energetic difference on your blood cells just from holding this, you know. And I just wanted to add, I was just speaking to Charlie just now, like asking more questions about this well, right now as we've sat, I have had this pain on my left hand side, and I suffer a lot with that on a day-to-day basis. It's just a bit of a hit and miss, and I've just literally I just brought it here just to show everybody, but I didn't quite understand what it does, I'll be honest. And I've just been holding it and just rolling it on my hands, and this pain has subsided. So this is what causes the anxiety for me when I'm about to do a show, because it's the dull aching pain all the flipping time, and it just really distorts my focus and concentration. But I'm sure you, being like picking intuitively on my energy, Lisa, I'm sure you can actually pick up a difference. And I've just been holding this. So I just asked while we're waiting for you to log back on. So I was saying, can we just hold it? Like, you know, does like when you go to sleep, and keep it with you all the time? Because I think I'm just going to hug it all day. Can I just put it behind me like this?
There you go.
No, but folks, I'm not making that up. I'm just literally sitting here because I really want to get started with sitting in the pyramid myself, and having the capstone and just sitting there with this, you know, and doing my meditation, morning meditation practice. But the thing is, like, if your focus is on your pain, meditation becomes that much more arduous. So it's a catch-22. You know, you want to do the whole Zen thing, but then you're like got this niggly pain. But anyway, thank you.
Yes, the best thing that you can do while you're utilizing the pyramid is envision yourself already healed. Envision yourself feeling better, you know, and make yourself, it's hard when you're not feeling well, but make yourself feel like you're already better. Make yourself feel like you're well, and it's going to enhance it even more.
Well, this is doing something.
But like Charlie said earlier, you know, the Caduceus coil produces scalar waves. So it embeds the healing into your DNA almost spontaneously, almost immediately.
It is.
So,
well, it is.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting to fly any second now.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway,
Back to you.
It's time to what we want to do now. We've spent a portion of time talking about the health benefits, and hopefully we've demonstrated at least some of the information that we're going to continue to expand upon with our survey and so forth of people's usage. But I do want to now focus on some of the historical information and the hidden history that's involved in all of this, because that to me is all, you know, I started to write this book last summer, and I thought I'd be finished in a year, by July. But each time I get further into this, I find new rabbit holes that I have to explore to really do justice to the history and the suppressed history of all of this information. So I'm going to open up the slides again and go back to some of these this information. Just briefly, you know, for those unfamiliar, what we're talking about when we say sacred geometry, it is general. Most likely, in all cases, we're talking about what's called phi, P-H-I. And phi is not pi like we learned in geometry class, which is the circumference of a circle. Phi is a scaling ratio that's used in nature. And if you look at the box in the middle of the page, you see a line split into two parts, A plus B, or A and B. And what phi demonstrates is a relationship that will allow for the equation underneath to continue to be true at all levels of scaling. And that is, if you look at the relationship between A to B in terms of their length, is the same as the sum of A and B is to A.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? That means that if we take A and B and add them together, we're going to get, of course, a new line, which is A plus B. It would be the sum of A plus B, and that would be C. Let's call that number C. Well, you could then add A plus C and get D, and you get the idea. It just keeps growing and growing at a constant relationship. And so it's a very, very important number in nature, as we're going to see. We're going to find this in nature everywhere. Well, knowing that phi was important, the Russians never did disclose the sacred geometry of these pyramids to the West. And so I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure it out and decided to try something, which was to look at circles. Circles, according to Buckminster Fuller, Nassim Haramein, you name it, all of the real experts, creation occurs within the circle in 2 dimensions, or in 3 dimensions, the sphere. So to do it in 2 dimensions, I said, well, let me take a circle with a diameter of 1, which is the circle at the bottom, and I'm going to divide that by 1.618, which is this phi ratio, and come up with a smaller circle, which is the 1.618 in the second circle. And I did the same thing going up. And so I just divided the diameters by phi, stacked them together, and then built a pyramid around it. And as it turns out, that was the way that this geometry was developed. And we'll show how I prove that in a minute. Now, at the same time that I was doing this, kind of in a 3-dimensional context, Marshall Lefferts, who works with Nassim Haramein, wrote a book published about 1.5 years ago called Cosmometry, Exploring the Holofractal Nature of the Cosmos. And if you look on the bottom left here, this is a diagram that comes actually out from his book. And he did it not with phi as 1.618, but as what's called the Fibonacci series. And we're going to get into that. If your group is not familiar, it's a way of uniquely putting numbers together. Yeah. If you start with 0 and 1 and add those together, you get 1. Well, now you take 1 and 1 and you get 2. Then you take 1 and 2 and you get 3. 2 and 3, you get 5. And if you'll notice, that's exactly what he's done here. He's used the Fibonacci numbers to essentially, he was doing this at the same time that I was doing it, but we didn't know each other. So we kind of hit on this more or less at the same time, and he came up with it using the Fibonacci series. But what I'm going to show you here quickly, these are just 2 examples from his book. If you look at the bark on a tree, it for some reason uses this very same geometry. You'll find that in the bark of trees. Birds fly in this geometry. So you see this, and there are numerous other examples in his book from nature. But I decided I wanted to find this in other places as well. But having determined the geometry, the first thing I did was to go back and see if my 76.345 degree slant angle matched up with the Russian geometry, and it does. So that's further proof that this technique was exactly what the Russians had used, but they hadn't never disclosed it to me. So, but now this is perhaps the first major thing that told me I was on the right track. Everybody who would come up to the booths and they'd say, well, gee, this looks so different than the than the Giza pyramid, the Great Pyramid in Giza. There must not be any relationship to this at all. Well, it turns out there's a ton of relationships. It's just that the angles are in different places. So if you look on the left diagram, down at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a letter F near my cursor here. And that is what's called the slant angle of the Russian pyramid. And the Russian pyramid is the one that's the tall one. And then underneath it is the Giza pyramid. And they're drawn in relationship to each other, assuming a common base length of 2. But anyway, you end up with what's called the slant angle of the Russian pyramid at 76.345 degrees. But now if you look at point E, this is called the apex angle of the Giza pyramid, and it's exactly the same, down to 3 significant digits. This cannot be an accident. I thought about this for a long time, and I said, is this just a coincidence? But it isn't. When you look at the height of the pyramids in relationship to each other, you'll see that the height ratio is 2 times phi. And when you look at the slant height, which is, along the edges, that ratio is phi squared. So we're finding phi in everywhere in the dimensions of these two geometries. And so I knew that this couldn't be an accident. Along those lines, I got a call after I disclosed this a little over 2 years ago from a young man in Australia who was making ormus from, if you know what that is, from a pyramid with this geometry, and he told me about the Temple of Karnak in Egypt and showed me this hieroglyph. And sure enough, when I measured it, it's exactly the same. So the Egyptians knew about this geometry, and it's in the hieroglyphs in numerous places, at least at the Temple of Karnak. So we know it's there. The obelisks that were famous in Egypt, they have the same geometry. So we know that it's in Egypt, but Egypt isn't where this really started. Where it started, and this is where the fun begins for you, and for hopefully this audience, this is going to be new stuff, is in India. Now, this is the Thiruvannamalai temple, and this is a classic example of what's called the Southern or Dravidian style of temple architecture.
Yes.
And this, I get a lot of this information, and I'm going to digress here for a minute. Lisa talks about the clarity of thought and so forth in here. All I have to do is ask the universe, tell me what I need to know to get this information out. And somebody from Belgium, Patrick Koster, so if he's listening, you're getting your due here. He said, you got to look, have you ever looked at these temples in India? And I said, no, I haven't. I was just starting. And that's what led me on this whole path of discovery, was that person saying, go take a look at this. So all of these Southern Dravidian style temples have this exact slant angle in the geometry. Now we can look at the Northern style. This is called the Nagara style of temple.
Yep.
It has the same geometry. Interestingly enough, it's harder sometimes in the Nagara style to see it because it's not as clear cut. It's not clean lines. But the Northern Indian temples all demonstrate what's called fractal relationships. Well, fractals come from this geometry. So you're seeing here that just in these couple examples, you see that they had to have known about this stuff, and they did.
But it's also in India right now. This is a bit of a shame. This is what Sadhguru is fighting for in southern India, is to reinstate the sacred geometry of these Hindu temples, because they've also been corrupted, unfortunately, right now. So our ancient wisdom and history is also being diluted, and has been diluted over the years. And that knowledge is just so slim. No, we still don't know enough, as we should do within India as well, because the temples are all changing.
That's right. That's right. And so, this is as much for, the people in the West as it is for the people in India, quite honestly, because on the one hand, I think the people in India many are not aware of all
100%.
of the ancient knowledge.
Yeah.
It's
Desensitized and diverted and distracted within the media fraternity.
Yeah. And we in the West, on the other hand, and I use this term cultural appropriation because I think it's only half the story, but I think it's important for people to know this.
Absolutely.
So the Fibonacci numbers that we discussed earlier in the context of martial efforts actually did not come from Fibonacci. Fibonacci was a 13th century mathematician, and he is credited with learning about Fibonacci numbers when, in fact, and we're going to see this in a minute, he learned everything that he knew from Indian mathematicians, everything. And he admits it in the preface to the book that became famous in the West as Liber Abaci. But this is what's called it's called Mount Meru, and this book that was written by Pingala from India in 450 BC. We don't need to dwell on it, but this is now called Pascal's triangle. It's been westernized and appropriated as knowledge that came from the West. And this is all coming from Indian tradition. Now, this is a guy that everybody who cares about sacred geometry needs to learn about. This is Praveen Mohan. He has a YouTube channel, and this, I'm putting this up because Praveen, this video is Fibonacci number, a Hindu number used in ancient India. This is a great video that will demonstrate, and it takes a lot longer than we've got time to go through here.
Fine, we can get the main bits now.
Yeah, but go to this and look at it, because he does an excellent job of explaining this. And he also gives credit to Fibonacci's work, because had Fibonacci not gotten this information from the Indians and disseminated this to the West, we'd still be using abacuses. And we could not do commerce, because in the West, we didn't know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And he took that whole system of mathematics and taught it to the West. But he gives full credit, as you'll see here, to Indian mathematicians. And these are some quotes from the kind of the preface of this book, Liber Abaci. I loved Indian mathematics to such an extent, above all others, that I completely devoted myself to it. I was introduced to Greek, Arabic, and Egyptian math, but I found all of them, even Pythagoras, to be erroneous compared to Indian mathematics. For this reason, basing my book completely on Indian methods, I composed this book. So I have completely adopted the mathematical method of Indians because it is the most effective. There you go in a nutshell. And none of this information, I was told that we got the Arabic number system. We learned that we got it from the Arabs. Well, they got it from the Indians, and this has all been hidden knowledge, because to take it, well, we'll get into why later. But anyway, so there you go with the Hindu temples. The Buddhist temples have this same geometry at the top of their temples or stupas. Buddha himself, when shown with headgear, the headgear has the same geometry. Yeah. Here's a pagoda in Vietnam that has the same slant angle geometry. Here's an interesting topic. This is Bagan, Myanmar. Bagan was originally named pagan, and that's where the term, the Western pagan term, comes from, and it's an object of ridicule and derision. How can you say that something that is pagan, when you look at the beauty of these temples, is anything other than illustrative of a society that knew an awful lot about sacred geometry? Not all of these temples have this slant angle. I did find one, and that shows you that they knew a lot more than I know right now about the geometry and the importance of each of these geometric angles. But moving on, just to show you, this is one of the Gothic cathedrals, Cologne Cathedral in Cologne, Germany. That steeple has this geometry as well. It came through really from I believe the Crusades. That's where we got the information, kind of from India, then to the Middle East, and then during the Crusades it came over. Castles throughout Europe use this geometry as well. Synagogues, this is an old synagogue that unfortunately was destroyed during World War II in Kaliningrad, which is now part of Russia, was part of Germany. This is an Islamic mosque. The Islamic Center of America in Dearborn, Michigan, has this geometry. Here's an interesting turn. In Norway, there were these unique churches called Stav churches, and they weren't really part of the Catholic system. And of course, there's Norse mythology, so you get a lot of interplay between early Christianity and some of the other Nordic traditions, but they show this geometry as well. Now I want to get to some examples there in the UK, because I think people will relate to this. Most people are aware of Rosslyn Chapel from Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code. And I just wanted to show you that besides being geometrically proportioned in terms of the width, length, and height of the pyramid, all of the spires on the outside of the pyramid also demonstrate this geometry. On the right, we see an adornment outside of the entrance to the chapel, and it has it as well. Here is a pyramid that was built in 1810 on what's called the Holy Island of Lindisfarne, which is there in England. This was a Celtic Christian stronghold, and they apparently, obviously, had this same knowledge. This was built as a day mark, which is sort of like the equivalent of a lighthouse for the daytime, but it was built in 1810. Now to some specific stuff that you might see every day in London. This is the Knights Templar Church in London. The spire contains the geometry of this pyramid. The St. Pancras Railway Station, spires up on top of that, have this geometry as well. And here's an iconic bridge, the Tower Bridge in London. Has this geometry as well. Another example outside of London, this is called Old Joe. It's the bell tower at the University of Birmingham, England. This was copied, actually, the design came from the San Marco bell tower in Venice, but has the same geometry. The William Wallace Memorial in Scotland has the same geometry in the spires at the top as well. Moving out of there, this one I found just fascinating. Ottawa in Canada, well, of course, it's the capital, and the original Capitol building didn't put any historicals in here of the national capital. Some of it burned down in some of these tragic fires we'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, this contemporary addition to the Ottawa City Hall has a pyramid with exactly this geometry. Why would that be? Now we'll get into some of the reasons why you're seeing all this. You're saying, well, how come I don't know about this? We're going to get into a little bit about history now and how it's been changed to suppress this information. But this is an example of what's called Tartarian architecture. Most of us have never heard of the Tartarians or the Tartarian Empire. We may know of tartar sauce for our shrimp or something, but we've virtually lost the history of Tartaria, and that's been on purpose. But this is actually part of the Kremlin. It's called St. Basil's Cathedral, but we know it as the Kremlin. That's what we see in the West as the symbol. And sure enough, the tower has this very information in it. The reason, this is way beyond our scope today, but this is a book that was written recently. I interviewed this gentleman. His name is Jamie Lee. This is the first book that's been written of any substance on this topic of the Tartarian Empire. This was actually a worldwide empire that covered not only current-day Russia, but India, China, North and South America, the Middle East, and so forth. It brought this the theory behind this book, and it's an intriguing read, is that this empire brought this technology of free energy and health through sound healing and geometry to the world, and that this has been lost over the last couple hundred years, perhaps due to what's called they're calling a Great Reset. And I'm just going to give people an idea of how fake our history is. In the United States, I had never until last year seen a map that showed that California was at one time an island. But these are three separate maps from three different cartographers that indicate that California was actually an island off the west coast of Nevada. And so if we don't know about this, there's got to be a reason, and it's being suppressed for a reason. Yeah. So we're not going to continue on that line, but that is a huge area that people need to open their minds to, that our history has been changed, rewritten, and suppressed for purposes that aren't benign. So
yeah, well, given everything that we have been exposed to in the last year, and what we found, what we found that pricked me there, what we've been exposed to, yeah, I know it's tickling me, saying hold me again. Yeah, with everything that we've found out in the last year about everything that we know, it's not real, it's not true, and we're going to have to relearn history.
that's right.
For sure. In
That's right.
every way, just as well I wasn't paying attention at history in the first place.
Well, it probably didn't make sense to you either. So
No, it didn't. It's interesting that, because it's almost like I've forgotten everything that I learned at school and at university, and I didn't do too badly, but it's maybe this is this ascension journey that I'm going through, and that's what I really feel, that, you know, this kind of forgetfulness that I've been going through over the last 4 or 5 years is actually a part of the ascension journey, and unlearning everything that I thought I knew to be correct. And this is backed up by the things that you've taught us today, in terms of the sacred gematria and the hidden knowledge, especially from my background. You know, as I said earlier, it's really important for me personally to be well versed and well not, you know, like learn much more about it and properly. And we haven't been taught. My parents haven't taught me because they didn't know, and their forefathers didn't know.
that's right.
Right.
That's right. So we forgive. We've got to forgive everyone because none of us knew. And so as we relearn this, this is just an opportunity to help to teach others. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm very grateful for that, because my grandfather was really into all of this, but he used to get frustrated as well because he couldn't understand it like properly. And being raised in India himself, but then migrating to East Africa, like a lot of the Asians did, like my whole family's born and brought up in East Africa, both my parents. So in terms of like the hidden knowledge within India, they weren't privy to it themselves. They grew up in a different country. And then I'm, you know, British Asian here, anglicized quite heavily. You know, we're kind of like detached from it, even though we probably feel we know stuff. It's a bit of an idolization culture here in terms of being like religious. So there's that kind of impetus placed on the religious procedures, which I started detaching from in the last year, more so. And I just started being a witness to this, a witness to our customs and our culture, and how people practice the religious rituals. And I never understood it because it wasn't explained to me. Like the science behind the symbol, the Sri Yantra symbol. I was given to it as a gift back in 10 years ago by a priest, and said, he used to say, just carry this with you. Yeah, the energy of this is going to really, really help you. And interestingly enough, it didn't want to stay with me. It got stolen from my bag. Yeah, but it was quite powerful, but I didn't actually understand what it meant. And then when my sort of mum looked at it and I asked her, do you understand what this means? And she's just like, no. So this is, you know, this is very true of a lot of people in my generation. And it's just really interesting to learn. And I want to learn. I want to become more versed in this and understanding the energetic powers of, you know, the healing modalities that are out there, if we have the correct information.
that's right. That's right. So, you know, I'll just go through here quickly, and we'll get to some of your points in a minute, because there's a final piece of research that I've been doing that's going to point straight once again back to India, knowing that all is.
I really have to say, I've been sat here for an hour and a half, and I'll be honest here, Charlie. The reason why I get hesitant to do anything for more than an hour and a half is because I can't sit still because of this
Okay.
and this nerve. And I'm just like holding this. I'm really grateful. Like it's gone. The pain has just subsided.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So I'll try to rush through the rest of this because I know we're running late. So
I'm sure everybody's I hope you're enjoying it. I know my lot are lovely. They will be enjoying this.
Sure. So this is free energy. This is a Tesla. This is Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower. And one of my viewers sent me this. She had checked out the Lesser Key of Solomon that I had determined previously, but she overlaid that onto Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower. and it's a perfect match. So this may have been actually, but the geometry is the same. Once again, I'm going to tell you about Praveen's work. He has shown, he has some videos that a lot of the temples in India may have been power plants and had energy devices contained in them. So I suggest that you refer back to that. Another interesting contemporary piece of iconography here, the Tesla logo has this geometry in it. Sailing boat sails, light is refracted at this geometry. Megaphones from, in the US we call them football. I guess you call it football, you call football
Yeah.
over there. But anyway, the megaphone is the same geometry. Our DNA is the same geometry. Our human nose, it doesn't matter the gender or the race. We all, the bone seems to, you know, in our nose all seems to be at the same geometry. Dunce caps, this originated in Victorian England.
Yes, I remember those.
Okay. The dunce cap was actually originated by a 13th century Franciscan priest named John Duns Scotus. He looked at the witch hats of the day, tried them on, realized that he could communicate with his higher self more easily. And you can try this; it works. And,
look how it's been inverted in mainstream, like the witch hats.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But anyway, you put it on. He developed a concept of a metaphysical God as a result of this experience. And the Catholic Church didn't want any part of that, so they vilified the whole concept and turned it into an object of ridicule. Now, just going to finish up quickly. Plato, and again, this really isn't true that Plato came up with all this. It's going to go back, but Plato supposedly taught the quadrivium, which is numbers, geometry, music, and cosmology. And those three, the first three, create our physical experience. And so I'm just going to run through this real fast. We haven't talked about the Platonic solids yet. Plato, again, supposedly figured these out, but sure enough, the ancient, we hear some ancient stones where the Platonic solids came from Scotland and Ireland. These are from 3000 BCE. So clearly they knew about this before Plato. It goes all the way back to India, and that's what this text is about. The Vedas knew about the Platonic solids. This is a piece of research that I did last fall, which I think is going to have some pretty profound significance going forward. This is a picture of what are called microtubules, or microclusters, excuse me. And microclusters are an intermediate state between matter and what we should be calling the ether. The ether was taken out of our science about 100 years ago, and I think that was done on purpose because that's where all the energy really is. There's enough energy in the palms of my hands to burn off all the water and all the oceans in the world. We are just seething in energy. But anyway, what I did, I was reading a book called Sacred Geometry, Philosophy and Practice, and I found a diagram, which I'll show you here first, which is this on the left. And it didn't mean much, and the author of the book didn't give you any idea what that was all about. But I was familiar with Metatron's cube. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but essentially in that two-dimensional Metatron's cube on the left, you can produce all the three-dimensional forms of Platonic solids. So the tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. So it gave me a thought. I said, well, what is this thing, what is he trying to tell us here? I wonder if I expanded this into 3 dimensions and plotted it, what I would find. And I specifically said, well, I think that this is a creative pathway personally. That's why we get the results that we want or get from the pyramid. So I plotted it, and you see the plot there. Plotting circles that get smaller doesn't really tell you much in 3 dimensions, except when you start to find interesting 3-dimensional relationships. And 2 that I found were these spheres, which supposedly circumscribe the Platonic solids in this progression that Buckminster Fuller described in the middle of the 20th century. we found two exact matches, where a midpoint of one of these matched with the apex of another, and here a base of one matched with the apex of another. And that couldn't happen. It could not happen unless the geometry that those circles were sitting in was exactly this geometry. So that wasn't enough for me. So I went ahead and looked at all of the ratio relationships between the apex and so forth. Not just did they match up somewhere. And lo and behold, I found 5 matches that showed sacred geometry. Two of them that had the square root of 2, which is a sacred geometric number. One that had 2, which is also an arithmetic, doubling number. Square root of 3 and phi were all found here. That can't be an accident. So what this is telling me, I say this at the bottom of the page, it's something I'm working on, and I'm looking for comments, but could this diagram be suggesting that the creative process occurs within the boundary conditions of the Russian pyramid geometry? It certainly looks to be that way. And, I'm working on that when I have time. Unfortunately, the book is, because of, being on Mark's show and so forth, it's kind of taken a back seat right now to trying to get the information.
I know the people have been like ordering the pyramids quite a lot, haven't they?
They have.
And yeah, and I'd love to hear the feedback that you get, from for my audience as well at the end once you finish this.
We'll do that. So, in summary, this is a diagram. I've just taken the pyramid. This is the way I developed it. In fact, I think, Lisa, you helped to develop this original design for me. But I took this. The top of the pyramid is what I theorize to be the middle, that 0 point in the torus, which is the creative field that Nassim Haramein has devised as the system of creation. So that, I think, is in a nutshell what's going on here and why the pyramid is so powerful. I'll show this last one, and this is the end of the slides. The person who was on with me on Mark Atwood's show, Michael Pascoe, this is a pyramid I sent him because he didn't have one yet at the time. He had left his in Hawaii and just moved to California. He took this picture at night, and he says this is not smoke.
Wow.
We don't know what this is, but it's some sort of plasma energy that is floating around. He could not see this with his naked eye when he went out to take the picture at night. So I'll just leave that for people to figure out, but it's an unretouched photograph. So
wow.
Anyway, it's fascinating. So anyway, now we're pretty much done, and I'm sorry we took too long, but
no, I've really enjoyed this, and I'll have all of this information on my description box at the bottom of this video. But wow, blown away.
So first of all, we set up the foundation to do this research. We need money. We need help. I've had a nice benefactor give a nice initial contribution. I've hired someone. We're trying to get grants and so forth to perform some of this research. So if you're interested, go to pyramidsciencefoundation.org. Your contributions are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. So if you want to purchase pyramids or Caduceus coils, you want to go to stargatepyramids.com, and there's my contact information. If you want to contact me, I'm an open book. I'll be happy. I'll get to you when you call me or email me, and I'll get back to you because that's why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this to get rich. I want to get this information out to the public. So use Alpa Soni 10% in your discount code when you check out, and you'll get 10% off any pyramid or Caduceus coil. And now I'll let Lisa talk about her stuff.
Yeah, so mine, if you just go to Charlie's store on Stargate Pyramids, there's a link that takes you right to my Etsy shop, which is Pyramid Surge. I'm working on my website, so I will have pyramidsurge.com up soon. But you can use on my Etsy shop Alpa 11 to get 11% off any of your orders over $111. Amazing.
And 11's my favorite number.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Nice.
Yeah, no, I started seeing 1111 so much over the last 5 years. And then my mum said, I'm born at that time. So there's you know, no coincidences. I think the universe has always been trying to talk to me. I just didn't have the eyes and ears to listen and see, you know.
Yes.
It's all around us, and there's no such thing as coincidence. And today has just been so informative. I thank both of you. And if there's anything else that you want to add before we close, please do so.
Yeah, I just want to say that for both of us, again, to reiterate, if you are a healer who's interested in participating, and or you have some health issues that could be potentially addressed by the pyramid, if you call Lisa or contact Lisa and me, we will offer you an additional discount once we've been in touch with you.
Yeah, I get a lot of healers message me and that watch my channel and watch the shows. So I think this is something definitely that I can say right now in the here and now. I got this just recently, and I didn't really know, because Charlie and I didn't have a chance to speak about what this was about. So I just wanted to show it really to the audience. And I'm saying this again, I was in agony today. Like, there's this part of my left hand side that I was actually going to cancel, Charlie, because it was going piercing into my head.
Wow.
And this is why I have to cancel a lot of the shows, because I can't focus, because the pain is there, and I'm just trying to catch a thought and trying to really sort of keep it together, because there's so much I want to speak about, especially on the subject of healing and alternative healing, not just through supplements, because, you know, I also encourage people to heavy metal detox as well, because it's a holistic thing. It's not just one thing fits all, right? I'm not going to just say, well, actually, that's what I wanted to speak to before we go, is like some of the testimonials that you've had. I've heard some of them personally from Mark, but it's a collective of things that we need to do, and, like, you know, moving away from the dependency of the Western medicine, the allopathic industry, and knowing that it's a collection of things that we do holistically, and, you know, to really aid our healing. And I think Mark was saying that someone that came to his house literally felt his arthritic pain completely go for the time he was sitting in the pyramid.
That's right.
So I just want to make sure I fix it properly.
No, that's
Well, a couple of things real quick, Charlie, that the Russians experimented with, they put an antibiotic inside the pyramid. It increased the potency of it by 1,000%.
Yeah.
So put your supplements up on that apex amplifier, charge them. It also, they would put a poison inside the pyramid, and it neutralized the toxicity of it.
So what would have happened right now, as we've sat here and I'm holding this, yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse the cooker noise in the background. My mum's cooking dinner. But what would have actually happened right now in my sort of physiology and my energy just by holding this?
Well, that one's not even hooked up yet either.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm not plugged in.
No, you're not even plugged in yet either. But go ahead, Charlie.
I'll give you my own personal experiences. I mentioned this on Mark's show. I broke my ankle 10 years ago, and so I started compensating in my walk. So not only did my left ankle hurt, but my right knee. And as soon as I started building these pyramids, about 75% of the pain went away. When I started using the coil, it all went away. Last week, the maid hit the coil while she was cleaning, and the alligator clamp broke. And I was so busy making pyramids for other people, I didn't fix it. So after 3 days, the pain in my knee started coming back. I obviously did that earlier this week, and now I'm back to normal again. So
when you say it's not plugged in properly, even so explain that to me.
Well, I'd like to be able to explain it, but there is some magic. I don't want to call it magic because it's science.
Well, no, it is.
Yeah,
I've always wanted a magic wand, and I've got
Yes.
Magic is, is nothing more than the science we don't know yet. So I just wanted to make that clear, but I don't know the science behind it enough yet to know, but we're going to be testing these, like I said, tomorrow, and we're going to be finding out a lot about coils in general and their impacts, on the field. But there's so much more science I could go into, but
what we're going to do as well.
Or past.
So what you do? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to what Charlie said there, is that we'll be doing another one live, because I think on the back of this, everyone, please write all your questions, comments below. And also you can email me at alpa@alpasoni.com if you have any questions, or the information that I'll put in the description box to email Charlie directly, and Lisa. I put all your information, but there's going to be loads of questions. And then I think we should do a live.
Oh,
Yes.
that would be fantastic. I'd love to do that.
I think so.
Yes.
The purpose of this, sorry, Lisa, just to finally say that the purpose of, for me, and I cannot emphasize this enough, like, I'm not joking, guys. I genuinely feel like I'm taken aback at the moment. I didn't feel very sort of like, I love my spontaneous shows, and this has been brilliant. And I thank you so much for sending me this, because, you know, healing journey is a long one if you look at it like that, but it can also be instantaneous as well, if you have the mindset and the willingness to heal. And what you said earlier on in the show is that, you know, the blockages that we sometimes may not know what's actually preventing us from getting that healing. So, you know, I've definitely learned a lot today. You've backed it up with factual, historic information. And I think the audience are going to love this. I'm sorry, Lisa,
Yes.
I just interrupted you.
Well, when, you know, our energy field expands about at least 8 feet from our body. So even just walking down the street and your energy field hits another person's energy field, you may pick up some of their energies, which I feel may cause things like bipolar and stuff, you know, unresolved issues that aren't even yours, but they're now attached to you. So it's confusing for people. Things like the Caduceus coil and the pyramid will eliminate that stuff and get rid of it, because you shouldn't have an attachment to it, because it's not even yours. But what the Caduceus coil does is you hook your phone up and play frequencies on your phone, and use the alligator clip and clip it to the end of that Caduceus coil. So those frequencies, you're not going to hear the frequencies because they're now being played through the Caduceus coil, but just holding on to that Caduceus coil while you're playing the frequencies, you'll be able to feel it.
So just hold this and then have the frequency music on my phone.
Yep.
Right.
If I'm sitting
Right.
in my pyramid, I just keep,
and it'll be
hold it
amplified
like
even more inside the pyramid. That's right.
right, because it exacerbates, of course.
Right.
So if I'm sitting meditating in my, and this is so that, you know, people watching get a clearer picture, and also just understand really, I know there's not like, you know, a set rule, but just sitting in my pyramid cross-legged and having this on my lap, or just holding it in my hands while I, you know, in the Gaya Mudra, I can just do that. And then obviously I've got the energetics of the capstones. And then keep my, like, say my water or my vitamins or whatever anyone wants to have more energy from, then just keep it on that sort of shelf thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't remember what it's called.
That would be perfect.
That's right.
And then to get even more power from the Caduceus coil, you could hook it up to an amplifier, like a stereo amplifier. I have a 100-watt amplifier on mine that I utilize.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's other options that you can use too.
Like this?
Well, we show it in the instructions. Yeah, you take a cord from your phone, then plug that into the amp, and then you have a separate cord that'll go to the alligator clip on the coil. So it's
which is that.
Yeah. So right. So there's an intermediate step of putting the amplifier in the middle to amplify the tones before they go to the coil. But
one more thing that I wanted to touch on real quick was the material that we make it out of. So Charlie makes his pyramids out of PVC pipe, and it's the same thing that the Russians made theirs out of. They made their pyramids out of fiberglass and PVC because it had to be a non-conductive material. They found that if they utilized making the pyramid out of metal, it didn't diminish the energy entirely, but it did dull down the energy somewhat. So I know some people are all focused on the copper pyramids and why isn't this copper, because it'd be more conductive. No, it's not going to be. It works better with non-conductive materials for this geometry. We're not trying to say that the Giza pyramids and copper don't work better. They do for Giza, but it's a different geometry.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that's good. So brilliant. Well, look, on a final note, thank you very much. And I think that people can go onto your website, read the testimonials. I'm sure there's loads and loads more of people's healing journeys, and find out much more about it. And any more questions or anything, people, please send me an email, or Charlie or Lisa. And thank you both so much. I've really enjoyed this. I did say to Charlie, we'll just have an hour and a half, but I could go on for another hour.
Well, that's a problem.
Oh, yes.
So look,
thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank
you
you
so much. We enjoyed it so much.
Oh, meeting has stopped. There we go.